share with the world all our dirty little secrets.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're dirty.
Dirty.
I got to ask you about that later, though. That's interesting. I didn't.
Cancel.
Yeah, we won't share it on the air because we don't want anything interesting to pop up on the show. God forbid there's any like real dirt on this show, real content. No, I was just saying before we started, I was just saying
That was a close one.
Whew, we dodged another bullet. All right, let's talk about something boring. All right, here's how long you need to fast for. Don't eat and get lots of sleep. That's the end
of the show.
Yep. Episode 500.
So close.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say, before Andrew hit the bleep button, I've had some experience with painkillers before where they've, I felt like they heightened my alertness and senses, which some other people have mentioned that before, where you get like an Adderall-like effect. Normally they make you kind of sleepy. Normally they make you kind of tired, but I was like, whoop, I can't take these because I really like this feeling. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like writing and journaling and working and doing all kinds of stuff. I'm like, probably not a good idea.
Painkillers did that. Wow.
Mhm.
I didn't ever know that could be a side effect.
They did that and they gave me nightmares, like really bad nightmares, like
crazy.
scary shit, like where I woke up like crying. I'm like,
Oh shit.
I was like, I was too fucked up from that. I don't think that's good.
Well, good thing you're not taking those anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or am I?
We
What?
don't know.
My
We don't
only
know.
one experience with Adderall was unfortunately not. I didn't notice a damn thing. So I don't know if maybe I didn't take enough.
You really didn't?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was like, oh, that happened. Sick. And I did take Mind Bullet, and that I felt
Mm-hmm.
that feels way
Yeah.
better.
Mind bullet.
Yeah.
If you guys are wondering how we got on this topic, I was mentioning to these guys how I took a potion and like the Mind Bullet potion. And seriously, whenever I take like Mind Bullet and I roll
And you killed 4 people at the same time.
at the same damn time. No, like we had Steven Kotler on and he was talking about flow and like jiu-jitsu is one of the main things that I know when I can get into that. Like just things get super creative, things are super quick. It's not just reactionary, but I'm just like I'm doing new shit that I've never drilled before, never done
That
before.
word even makes a lot of sense with jiu-jitsu. I haven't done much jiu-jitsu, but the tiny bit that I have done, it makes sense. Like this guy goes to put me into this and I counteract and I go this way. And then that guy knows your counteraction. And so therefore he goes for that. But you also know it's exposed. So then you go to that. And if you're both really good, it'll kind of look magical, kind of look like you're dancing or something. People like kind of watch it and go,
Yeah.
what the hell are these guys doing? Because when these other guys are doing it, it doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
The other
yeah.
guys just keep tapping out and choking each other out and stuff.
That's why Mind Bullet's freaking dope. I like
What's really cool is like in the UFC, Joe Rogan and the people of the UFC have educated people so well that people don't know exactly what's going on. They don't obviously know jiu-jitsu, but they know enough about grappling to applaud when you see a series of moves people are trying to execute these moves on somebody, and they keep like blocking them or counteracting them, and you're just like, wow. And they roll, and they sort of, it does look like a flow. It looks like they're flowing into something different.
Yeah.
And when I was doing pro wrestling, there was a flow to that too, because there were certain holds and certain moves that you would do, and there was like body language. I mean, we communicated. It's not no secret wrestling. You talk to your opponent in the ring, and but it wasn't always talking. It was a lot of times it was just body language. You kind of knew what the person was going to do by the way they would deliberately do certain things. They might put their hand out or something like that, and then to like grab their arm and put their arm behind their back or something. You got to try to do it without it looking like ridiculous, but it had a certain flow to it. In your day to day though, it's interesting. It's sometimes like for me, sometimes I'm going for a walk and I'll feel like I get hit with something and I don't know what it is. Sometimes Mind Bullet is part of it. Sometimes a cup of coffee is part of it. Sometimes it's music. And then I feel like, and what our guest was talking about, he was kind of more referring to, he was believing that was more of maybe like mini flow. It wasn't what he's able to kind of work people into. So it'd be interesting. I don't know. Maybe I've never even been in a flow state before. I don't know.
No, you probably have. You definitely have, but it's really cool when you, I guess when you're in like the zone that people call it, and you're just like doing stuff. It's dope.
Yeah, it feels good to have invention or innovation around something. You start having an idea, whether it be for a podcast or whether it be for a painting or whatever it is that you're doing, and then you start to think about it more. And when you think about it more, the idea kind of grows on itself. And then sometimes you think about it later and you're like, that really wasn't that good of an idea. Or you share it with somebody else, and then you kind of realize it's just maybe not even feasible to make this thing work that you just thought of. Maybe there's economical reasons, maybe there's technological reasons on why it can't happen. But sometimes you nail it and you're like, okay, cool. I get to run with this. This is kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably say in terms of you yourself, that's probably happened a lot to you because you always have a bunch of different ideas. Because you're always putting yourself in states to come up with things and to come up with ideas. But that would probably be a form of it because you guys have made so many things here that it's kind of undeniable that that's probably been a part of how you guys or how you operate.
Yeah, and I would say even like, I mean, watching you work out and stuff, getting yourself ready for a big lift.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times where we're trying to hype you up, you know, but like we're all kind of wondering, like, does he even hear us? Like, I'm pretty sure you do at times, and other times you definitely don't.
Right.
And what Stephen Kotler was talking about, like that, like triggering that fight or flight response can trigger flow and can like boost your testosterone and get you ready for whatever the hell you're about to face. So I would say you've probably have been there many times when it comes to lifting.
Yeah, I wonder, I guess we didn't ask this, but like if you're on a football team or you're on a team of some sort and you are all encouraging each other, kind of what that does. Because that does feel amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like indestructible. So I kind of wonder what state that is, or if that's something different. You know?
Yeah.
It's like
adrenaline.
Yeah, like it reminds me like when I used to watch soccer. There's this team that Messi used to be on. Well, I think Messi is still on it, but Barcelona. Sometimes when you'd watch that team play together, and when they were just doing like playing beautiful soccer, it's like it was insane how everything just looked. It looked unreal. Like that type of stuff, you can tell it's just it's something else.
Yeah, we call that like chemistry, right? Like oh, that team has good chemistry. But yeah, it could be even deeper than that.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, or like the triangle offense. That was, you know, Lakers, Bulls, Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn.
Shit's unstoppable.
You just couldn't stop it. You knew what was coming. You still couldn't stop it. You can only hope to contain him. When Shaq was just killing everybody.
Shaq is a salty dude, man. Have you heard him, like, honestly, like real talk, have you heard him just talk about or roast other players because of their lack of rings? Like the way he roasts Dwight Howard. Oh. Because Dwight Howard had the new name of Superman. Like Shaq always.
That's right. Superman emblem. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a ring. Shaq always just decimates and roasts the hell out of Dwight Howard. It's a really sad thing to see. It's like, why? You're one of the greats. Why are you going after Dwight like that?
That is funny. Man, Dwight Howard should have been way better than he ended up being, though.
He's pretty damn jacked.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, he was.
But, man, once he left the Magic, it was like, yo, what happened to him?
Yeah, people have theories. There's some, it's whatever. But
Shaq was amazing.
He was.
And he made things look easy, and he like made it look like he was just having fun a lot of times. And he still killed everybody.
Dude, he made me mad.
As a Kings fan, yeah, he pissed me off. And he ended up like owning part of the Kings too. That's what's really weird. But he would just like knock people with his gigantic ass, like just literally clear out the entire floor and then just dunk it.
The reason why Shaq made me mad is like he was so good, but you could tell as he got older, he starts to just kind of gain weight and like lose his mobility, but he didn't really care, right? So he was just like bombing on people when like, I'm like, dude, you lifted some damn weights. You'd be this big, just diesel, fit, just, he would have won way more championships on his own if he didn't just let himself go.
There's just no question he would have been just, I mean, he kind of was unstoppable anyway.
Yeah.
But it would have
been more unstoppable.
It would have been a lot worse for the other team.
How crazy is that?
Oh, yeah.
He has a couple of dope songs too. He has one with RZA.
Yeah.
It's so dope, called No Hooks.
I've never heard it.
Dude, it'll blow your mind.
He's got a whole rap album.
Yeah. No, he has a couple.
Yeah.
And a video game that was terrible. Shaq Fu.
I remember that.
a couple of movies.
Shazam, right?
Yeah.
Shazam was good.
Now he owns all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
He's got all kinds of dough.
He's
flowing on.
crushing it still.
I know.
think
He's
he
on
also-
all those commercials now.
Did he do something
Talking about arthritis.
Icy hot.
Icy hot? That's what it is. Oh man.
He's killing it. All right, we're going to talk today a little bit about reframing. We've been kind of poking back and forth with some text messages earlier today, and how you got the ability to choose how you interpret stuff. And I was listening to something the other day, and the guy was talking about reprogramming your brain. And then he also kind of said it's not really reprogramming necessarily. It's probably programming for the first time, because you may not have ever really thought about some of these things. You might not have ever thought about why you thought a certain thing. You just might think a certain thing. You might have been kind of born into it. You might have been born into some of these beliefs. And I think most of us at some point have kind of thought about what our parents taught us sometimes, and we're like, I don't really agree with that. That actually seems really opposite of the way I feel.
Yeah.
Or grandparents or whoever it is that's in your family, and you're kind of like, why did I learn that? That's strange. Like, you start to think for yourself. But there's probably a lot of areas that you maybe have never really focused on or thought of before. Something that I feel that is like refreshing is that the words that we use, I think we use them so often that they're damaging, and they kind of pigeonhole you into they kind of paint you into a corner. Because we say made me feel, or this makes me feel, somebody made me feel this way. And no one can really, unless there's like physical harm going on, and you harm the person every single time that they, do whatever it is that you don't want them to do or something. So other than like torture or like abuse, no one can really make you feel anything. It can make you feel pain in your shoulder if they punch you or something. But again, without contact, it can't really make you feel any which way. And if you were to go up to a girl and, try to hit on them and try to get a date or something, I mean, you could walk away and be demoralized, or you can just think, well, you know what? That's perfect, because now I know that she's not into me, and I can, there's a couple other cute girls over there. I'll ask them tomorrow or whatever when I feel a little bit better about myself. So I mean, you can look at it in some different ways. There's got kind of a silver lining to everything, right? And I think sometimes we don't realize how powerful that can be, because the input that you have doesn't have to predetermine the outcome. You get to determine some of the outcome. You get to decide how you want to react to it, or how you want to at least think about your thoughts. We don't always have control of like what pops into our head, because random shit pops in there. And there's a lot of outside influences. You might just hear something on the radio. You might hear somebody say something in passing. So there's a lot of stuff coming our way. But the way that we interpret it is up to us.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying there. One thing that when you were talking that I kind of focused on is the idea that no one can make you feel anything, right? And I agree with that to an extent. Like, I think that, or maybe it just could be that I need to develop more potentially. But when someone really close to you, and we've spoken about this before, but when someone really close to you says something, and they're close to you in a way that you are vulnerable to that person, and that person's also vulnerable with you. And if they say certain things, it's like, yes, you can control if you feel hurt, technically, right? But at the end of the day, that if it's like a potentially really mean thing, or it's a really harsh thing or whatever, because they're so close to you, right? Then that has more of a possibility of really hitting to the core, right? If my mama said something to me that was just like really just like,
And a lot of times in those cases, they don't even know that they said something. They said something, and it, I never thought you'd be capable of this because you were always into sports or something. And you're kind of like, well, what, does she think I'm dumb? And she didn't say anything about you being dumb. She's actually just surprised. Maybe she meant something totally different by it, right?
Yeah, she's complimenting you, but
she's trying to compliment you, but she's got her own way, maybe.
Yeah. And then in regards to what Mark was talking about, which I think maybe might kind of circle back and clarify for what you're talking about is like, like the chick not being into you scenario. Like that's not good nor bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Right.
how you interpret it.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
So like if
until you put your label on it. Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So like if you take that as she's not into me because I don't know, I'm ugly or whatever it may be, then like, okay, you just made it bad. But
Yeah.
her actually not being into you is not good nor bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, again, how you interpret it.
I think the thing is that you have to just it's difficult, but you have to be in a constant you have to be constantly, I guess this is our topic, but constantly reframing things that you hear, because that girl situation, right? If you're not on your guard necessarily, I don't know if I want to call it on your guard, but if you're not on your guard, that could potentially make you feel bad. But immediately you have to be like, there's so many other chicks out there. I learned this from this one. Let me go figure something out with another one.
Yeah.
Right? Or your parent says something to you and you're like, let me try to understand what they were saying. They're like, maybe there's some truth to that. So let me try and get better somehow, right? You have to constantly be doing that. And that in and of itself is something that takes a lot of damn practice.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do. And then I think another part of this, like there's multiple pieces to this puzzle, because if somebody that you love says something, we have determined in our head a value assignment to that person.
Mm-hmm.
That person has a particular value to us. And what I would also maybe question too is like, if somebody, obviously, like if it's like your mom or something that you can do about it, but if it's, I mean, I guess you can communicate, but if it's like a spouse or somebody like that, then I think it's time to communicate. It's time to open up and try to communicate, because you do place that person, they're a high value to you, and it's easier to get hurt by what they say. Where for the most part, like what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, I don't see that doesn't happen as much. What happens more often is we get taken away by, like, the wind will blow the wrong way and we get thrown off our course. We get thrown off the direction that we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
We're working towards something, and then something derails us, something distracts us that doesn't have a high value assignment, but we assigned it something. We gave it power because we let it make us mad. Like watching the news. Like the news doesn't really have much. It just doesn't seem like it has hardly any benefit at all. I mean, I guess we can figure out some benefit. We could probably come up with 5 or 10 reasons on why you might want to watch the news, but we can probably come up with thousands of reasons why you shouldn't.
Yep.
Or why it'd be a good idea to miss a lot of it and maybe just catch up with it once a week or something.
Mm-hmm.
We could probably come up with some cleaner ways to get that information, because as you said, it's hard to always filter it out. It's like your filter starts to get full of gunk. It gets full of stuff, and you're just like, man, I can't keep filtering this shit out. And sometimes you just get worn down. Like that's an interpretation too, right? Like are you actually really worn down? Are you like, why are you worn down? Did you not sleep? Are you overly stressed? But if you're overly stressed, a lot of that would come down to interpreting stuff. But we're not robots. And the more stuff that comes our way, a lot of times the harder it gets to make decisions, and we start to crumble. We start to make poor decisions. And you make a poor decision, especially with something like your food, you're like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm hurting myself again. I had this goal. I wanted to lose 30 pounds, and here I am again, being the same fat bastard I was yesterday, making the same shitty decision, or drinking, or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Just because we did have him on the show, but again, talking about Steven Kotler, he talked about cognitive load. So, like what you just said, all these things are coming in and our filter's getting a little gunked up. It's like imagine you have 40 tabs open on your internet browser and you're trying to get anything done. It's like, yeah, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like your defense is down already, and then you're trying to do something serious, but you're already tired because, like, shit, let me just get rid of all these windows. It's like, shit, you got to click 39 times before you get to the one you need. That's going to have a toll on you, and it's going to really break you down.
Yeah. It's like putting you have the 40 tabs open, but they're not really that important, and it kind of goes into the value assignment thing that we were talking about. You have all the you have your value assignments all on the wrong things. Just fucking close all the tabs. And like you can't really care about all the things that are going on there and focus on one thing. But also I was wondering or thinking about this when you mentioned that. I think one big thing is that we put too much value on certain things and certain opinions. Like, I think that most of us tend to spread that across a lot of different people and a lot of different inputs. And we just give things so much more importance than they actually have. What's an example? Like there's something that you want to do, but you're scared of doing it because something might happen. Something bad might happen, but you're putting too much value on that thing that might happen. That's negative. That it really isn't a big deal. And that's affecting you taking action. Right. So it's like, we really need to be careful what we give value to in essence.
You give it power. You have anxiety over it. Anxiety is things that haven't happened. And you have anxiety over hurting your back during sets of deadlifts. And today's the deadlift day. And, you know, you kind of put that in the universe a little bit. And now it's sort of out there. It's in your brain. It's sitting there in your body. You go to deadlift, and sure enough, a little bit of a tweak goes on, and you're like, I knew it. God damn it. Right? A lot of things are like that. I think we're always trying to, you want to try your best. You want to do your best to set yourself up for success. Oftentimes, we set ourselves up for failure because we're behind a little bit, because we tried to rush something. We don't feel like we had enough time for it. It's really easy there's so much negative, and there's so many, and even that's an interpretation because there could be an equal amount of good, right?
Yep.
It's just the label that we stick to it. But I think you get my point. It seems to be, and this is my interpretation, it seems to be easier to be negative than it is to be positive. It's easier to think about how fucked you are on each day. Something as simple as going to the grocery store. You probably know that you had an opportunity to go to the grocery store a few days earlier, maybe on the weekend when you had a little bit more time. Now you're running over there after lifting and after a long day, and you're starving. And then you check in with your wife or girlfriend, and you know they're not sure what they want to eat, and you're trying to pick up some food, and then you're trying to pick up food for the week, and then you go to the grocery store, and the grocery store is a nightmare because everybody else there is everybody else. Everybody else is there for the same reason that you're there. It's because they didn't do what they were supposed to do when they were supposed to do it. And so now they're lumped in with you. And now all the lines are packed. All the lines are full. And you say, motherfucker, can't they get more people to work here? What the fuck's going on? There's like 5 lines. There's like 20 people in each line. This is taking forever. You're getting super frustrated. And you're like, this fat bastard in front of me doesn't need to buy this candy. Like, come on now. Let's move all this along here, right?
Do you notice that when you do get in that mode, you get so much more judgy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're judging
like the Thanksgiving lines.
Yeah.
Man.
You're talking shit about everybody in there.
Because I'll leave, the store being like, dude, I'm such a dick. Like, why am I so mean?
You're like, I'm buying nutritious food. These guys are, and you don't know anybody else's story in there.
No.
The likelihood they have it worse than you is probably pretty high, and you shouldn't even bother to really get caught up in a lot of that. I think we put a lot of undue stress on ourselves, and we make things a lot harder, and then it gets to be more difficult to even look at something with a positive attitude because you set yourself so far back, you set yourself so far behind that now you're screwed. When I try to think about some of these things, I try to think about a couple of things that are fairly simple to do and fairly simple to practice. And one of those things is walking. Another one of those things would be eating nutrient dense foods, or just foods that you that you feel are fairly healthy for you. So if you are feeling like crap and you're having a hard time with interpretation, you're having a tough time reframing stuff, you feel like you're a pretty negative person, having poor nutrition is not going to help you get out of that slump. It's probably going to make you worse. It's probably going to make it so that you don't want to take that first step to get a gym membership or take that first step to go do something. You just tend to at least from my own experience, you tend to look at everything a little bit differently.
Yeah.
When you do get ahead, then you'll find yourself enjoying a lot more things a lot more often, and stopping and kind of quote unquote smelling the roses, because you have time to think about it a little bit. You go on a walk and you're like, oh, it's a beautiful day out. Wow, this is really nice. You smile at a couple people, they smile back, hold the door for somebody, like, and you get these little chunks of momentum going. And not everything, but a lot of things feel positive. You're interpreting a lot of things as being positive for that day, as opposed to the reverse of it and living your life kind of being behind a lot.
No, I think that's huge right there. Like starting your day with something positive, or starting your day doing something that's actually going to push you in the right direction is going to help set up a lot of other things. Whereas, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you hit your snooze button and then you eat some crap in the morning that you know you probably shouldn't have, you're already starting on a bad foot. And sometimes if you're trying to build momentum, it's hard to regain it. You kind of just let things continue spiraling. You make one bad decision, then you make another decision that's not too great. And then sooner or later, it's 9 p.m. The day got away from you, and you have 3 slices of pizza in your mouth. Like at once. That is sometimes what happens. So I think, one big thing is figuring out. I think this is why probably people are always talking about what's your morning routine. Yep. Because it's not that it's just like a fad and people are just trying to do the best things. It's just people are trying to set the day up to be successful, so that you have this positive momentum getting you going for the rest of your day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know we're trying to like say that nothing's good or bad, but you know, when you start the day off with a donut or something, it's not optimal, right?
Yeah. Most people, it's not.
Unless you're planning on going to, have like a big bench session where you have these bench bagels, right? Then you have not excuse, but like you have a purpose for it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't think that's going to be beneficial for anybody.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I think there's certain things that I think I would say are universally bad, and I would say that messing around with anybody else's property, which I would consider to be themselves and kind of whatever else they have worked for, I got a problem with that. Like I personally think that that's bad. I can't picture any good in it. I can't picture you messing with my kids and me thinking that it's good. There's nothing that would change that for me, and I don't think that necessarily for something to be one way or the other, that you have to find a silver lining in it. But I would say that there's just certain things, like I don't see how rape is good. Yeah. I don't see how, I know why war happens. And I guess there's like economies and things like that. Things seem to get better sometimes after a war, but I don't really think war is good either. I don't think people fighting and shooting and killing each other I can't really put it into the right words and express it the right way, but I personally don't think that that's good.
I feel it. So I've heard, listening to Jocko Willink on his Jocko cast, sometimes hear some of these guys be like, "Hey, we're there killing evil." Like that's what they would look at war and say war is not ideal, but the silver lining there is we are getting rid of people that do evil in this world. Right. Even though there are a lot of times other interests within war, like some people would find that in there.
Well, and it would be morals, right? Like it's now my morals versus their morals. And that gets to be really weird because, again, you get to be born into some of those things. Just because you're born into a certain religion, and I'm born into a certain religion, do we have to do we have to fight? Do we have to kill each other? Do we have to be mad at each other? I mean, there's certain countries that have been at war with each other for a long time. It's just always been that way.
Yeah.
Take it down a much lesser degree and take it out to like sports rivalries or something like that. And this team hates that team, and and that's kind of taught in high school. Like you hate that other we hate this rival school. We're going to kick their ass, and there's fights at the games, and it's like this 16-year-old kid is the same as you, he probably has so much in common with you, just as a lot of your 16-year-old friends that are at the current school that you're at than the opposing high school.
Yeah.
So there's some like disordered thinking going on just because that person's wearing red and you're wearing blue or whatever it is.
Who was the guest that we had on that he like helped a bunch of KKK members disrobe? What was his name?
Oh man,
it makes me so mad that I don't remember this. But one of us will at some point.
Right,
and the reason why I'm remembering that is because as you were just talking about, like, we're all born with these different morals. Like he was talking about,
we had him on twice.
Yeah, individuals that were like born into like their families were racist. They were born thinking certain groups were, you know, lower than others, and it's like he helped change that individual's morals because of what he was able to show them, right? So it's like we all have these different sets, and it doesn't necessarily, I guess, you're not stuck with that. Even if that's your background and that's what you were born with, or that's what your parents were thinking, like you were mentioning, like sometimes you think, oh, my parents taught me that. Is that right or is that wrong? That doesn't mean that you're stuck like that. Just like, you know, if you have this negative mindset because, and we've talked about this too on the show before, like a lot of times kids they grow up having a negative mindset because of maybe the way their parents talked to them, because of the way their parents told them they couldn't do something, or this wasn't the right way for them to go about things. They weren't given positivity, right? Sometimes as an adult, you think that it's too late for me. I can't necessarily change this. This is how I am. But you actually can. It's just going to take a lot of effort. It's just going to take a lot of reframing, and it's going to take a lot of reprogramming, as we were talking about before.
Daryl Davis. Episode 387 and episode 397.
Yeah.
10 away. Damn, we had him on quick.
Yeah. If someone can can grow up and change their idea on like believing black people are inferior, even though that's what they grow up in, I absolutely believe that people can change their mindset, right? And their ability to reframe things that happen in their lives and their future.
I think in previous shows, I think I may have talked a while back about this idea of like equanimity, like having some balance, having a balanced mind, where, again, you're not going to be able to always do this. Like, and this doesn't mean you're emotionless. This doesn't mean that you turn into a robot. But the thing to think about is when you think that a mountain is too tall for you to climb, and you think that you do not possess the ability, I can't do that. I can't be the person that loses 50 pounds. I can't be the person that has the discipline to work out often. I can't be the person that ends up making $100,000 a year, or whatever the thing is that you're shooting for. The question to ask yourself is, can you be better than you currently are? Do you possess the ability to, or are you happy with the results that you're currently getting? A lot of people play like a victim mentality. You know, that grocery store thing is real. Like, we've all kind of been there, and we've been hangry and we've been frustrated. And then we end up there like 2 weeks later again, you know, because we like didn't learn from it or something, you know, or just human fallibility comes in. Like, we're not perfect. It's shit happens, and things tend to pop up that are maybe unexpected, or we waste time somewhere where we shouldn't have. We get distracted very often. And something to think about is when you have these feelings, when you feel bad about something, when you feel bad about your diet and feel bad about not being able to stay disciplined to something, the question is, are you okay with feeling like that? Because if you're not, then you need to work on reframing. You need to work on what we're talking about. And it's very difficult. But it's as simple as making a choice. It's as simple as just deciding. Now, you might have to do a bunch of things that put you in a better position so that you feel good enough to do any of this in the first place. You may have to distance yourself from social media for a while, because maybe social media is bogging you down. Maybe it's making you, maybe at the moment, maybe it's quote unquote making you not feel so great about yourself. You're having shitty posts or whatever your interpretation of whatever's going on there. But if you can't organize it well, fucking get rid of it. At least for a minute. You don't have to get rid of it forever, but get rid of it until you can come back to it. And we're seeing people do this all the time. I'm seeing young people in the gym and people that we work with all the time. They're like, yeah, I got rid of that shit. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, how long you got rid of it for? And they're like, I don't know yet, but, but for now I got rid of it. And I think that's great. And I think a lot of people are learning that that's important because they have not been able to gain control over how they think about the different things that they're seeing. And they're recognizing that as being massively problematic. Now, if you did work on reframing and you are like a master of some of this stuff, then it won't probably bother you that much to check out social media here and there and see some negative comments or see comments that are that you're maybe not interpreting as being positive.
Absolutely. I think like that's important. But I think one of the big things is not just potentially getting rid of social media, right? But individuals in your life that you feel that, I guess, they're not aiding in that idea for you, or they're not aiding in that help for reframe. Because you might have people that are close to you that when you're trying to do something or when you're trying to move forward somewhere, right, you always manage to potentially revert back because of them. And you can't necessarily even blame them, because at the end of the day, it's your choice to partake in terms of what they're doing or give the words that they have, like, you know, that they speak to you power. But at the end of the day, you might really have to assess that and be like, is this benefiting me, or is having this person in my life consistently making me move backwards and regress? And I think that's one of the hardest things to do, because when you have relationships with people, most of the time you want to maintain that. Most of the time you want to try and keep it. But sometimes you have to make the decision to let that go.
Yeah, letting go of stuff is really important. And again, Stephen Kotler, he taught, is it Kotler or Kotler?
Kotler with the T.
Yeah.
Kotler.
He talked about letting go. And he talked about how it's important at like a certain age to make sure you've kind of letting go, that you have let go of, I think you said 50, by the age of 50.
Mm-hmm.
My dad told me a really cool story today. It's pretty great, you know, get an opportunity to go on these walks with him every morning. He told me a story about a friend that the dad, I guess, left them when they were young, and the mom and the dad got into like a pretty good like argument, and the dad was just like, you know what, I don't want anything to do with any of you anymore. And he took off, you know, and he got remarried and stuff, and they didn't know where he was. He was a foreigner, and so he didn't have, they couldn't like track him down. She couldn't try to get alimony from him or anything, you know, she couldn't figure out anything. She's trying just to provide for her kids and things like that. Anyway, fast forward, 40 years or so.
Jeez.
Now this lady's, 65 or whatever, the kid, one of the children, and she feels, kind of scorned by her dad. He never came around. Well, now he dies. He passes on. She never had an opportunity to like talk to him or anything. He did pretty well. He made some money, and he, had a home and stuff like that. And so she gets caught up in this idea of like, well, I never grew up with him, and he never really, he provided for us for a little while, but I never was really able to get anything from him. Now she's all excited about potentially getting some of this money from this house.
Uh-oh.
And so she asked my dad about it, and when she goes to him and asks my dad's like, I got to be honest with you, I would just forget about that money. She's like, what? This could provide, some really good money for us. She's like, he didn't care about you guys. Why would you want money from someone that doesn't care about you? He didn't want to give it to you while he was here. And I'm sure he probably doesn't want you to even have it now. My dad was just being like straight up with her. And she's like, I think we should, go. Anyway, my whole point is she spent a couple of years of her life, fighting for this money. And I don't think she ever got it. She was never able to. She wasted a lot of time, a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's money that wasn't even hers. I guess we can argue over whether we think that she's entitled to any of it. I don't know. That's hard, really difficult to determine. But a court is not going to determine that somebody else's money is yours unless there's some sort of contract or something like that, or unless, I don't know what they would have to prove to do that. There's probably maternal stuff that they could figure out. But anyway, I thought that was really interesting, because it's like, man, you should have just let that go. Like,
yeah.
And I understand. Like, I understand that people are hurting for money, I understand that people think money is going to really move the needle for them. But it's easy for me to say in the position I'm in, but even if I was in my old position where I didn't have any money, I would just be like, oh man, it sucks that he died. You know, it would have been cool to talk to him and figure out why the fuck he left or whatever, you know, and that would probably be that. But I don't think I would be, kind of waiting around for like a handout or whatever.
Yeah. And with that, when you were talking about that and equanimity, what was the essence that, like, if she didn't put that much value on that, she could have figured out something else, or she'd have got caught on and done the other things that she needed to do. Was that
right? She could have also just not had any stress over it. She could have said, I don't really know anything about this. If there's any sort of legal action that we can take to actually like if we're actually if we're actually like entitled to that money, then let's just let a lawyer figure it out. And I'm just going to sit back and I'll see what they think. I'll present the case to them. And but she did present the case to them, and the lawyer's like, yeah, it's going to be like rough, and it's going to be. So she spent time and money and was never and stressed out a lot over it, and was really hurt, like had hurt feelings, because now that attachment or that disattachment from her dad was now all brought up again. She had to kind of live through it again for the next couple of years. But had she been someone who's able to practice any of these things that we talk about on this show, even some stoicism would have helped, where she could have played this through. She knew her dad had cancer. She could have thought to herself, oh my God, like he's in his 70s or he's in his 80s. He's probably going to die. And then I wonder, she could have called him while he was still alive and said, Dad, you bastard. I think, she could have, whatever she thought was appropriate, you could have. But I think when it comes to stoicism, or when it comes to practicing some of these things, when it comes to stoicism, if you can play out the fact that anything can happen from anybody, it sucks, but those are things that are important. They're important to at least think about, because if you did a dress rehearsal for any of it, you would be better prepared for the outcome. It's easier to think about someone who's 70 or 80, the fact that they're going to pass. But to think about your own kid, or it's like, who the fuck wants to do that?
Yeah.
But is it possible? I mean, it's possible. Anything that's living is going to die at some point. So nothing's forever. Your pet's not forever. Your kid's not forever. Just there's nothing that's forever. And so as much as it sucks to play it out, I think it can be helpful.
I have a question for you, because I see your notebook right there. And the reason why I'm asking you this is because I think that we have so many things that are flowing within our head when it comes to ideas of things that we want to do, anxiety about certain things, stress, just there's so many things that we have flowing in our head and that we're thinking about all the time. And even if you just go out walking, it's still up there. You're still thinking it through. But I want to know, how often do you like write things out? How often do you do that every day? Is something you do often? And the reason I'm asking you is because, like, for me, I have to write things out every single day, because like I'm always forgetting something, right? So it'll hit me later on, and then it'll be like, God, I should remember that 5 days ago. But if I'm able to just get things out during my day or at the beginning of my day, it clears everything out for me as time goes by. I think that's something that if more people had that practice, that would help alleviate a lot of stress and anxiety. So how do you operate when it comes to that?
I have many notebooks jammed with a lot of stuff, and it's kind of all over the place. You'll see some references to, like, Jordan Peterson in there, and then in here there's drawings of like inventions. Like, here we go. It's like I won't show it, but you can see it. But like there's current inventions and things in here.
I had to change the camera just in case.
Oh, shit. Yeah, there's current things in here and stuff that I've had ideas for, and I write them down. Actually, I had a situation happen not too long ago where somebody was talking about how they, in collaboration with me, created this thing, and then they said, they're like, oh yeah, I made that from scratch. And I was like,
Hell yeah.
I was like, hold on a second. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, I could have drew this up this morning, you know, because there's a date on it and whatever, but I'm like, there's no verification for the date, but I'm like, this idea came from me. I communicated that to you, and then anyway.
That's so
you know,
good.
it's great to have record of these things, and like sometimes when I look back, you know, I'll see like a date on there. I might write something like Super Bowl, like it's like just because it's like Super Bowl Sunday, you know. I might even write who's playing in it. I don't really care that much about the game or the outcome of the game or whatever, but I'm just kind of trying to. I'll write Christmas, you know. I'll write, you know, Jake is driving, or just something like completely random that doesn't really have much to do with the organization of my thoughts. But then when I look back at it, it like brings me back to that. So I would recommend to people, it can be a pain in the ass, but try to write down as much stuff as you can. If you can write down like the date and the time and like where you're writing from, you'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that, because it might be 5 years from now. I'd be like, I remember that coffee shop. I used to go there all the time. Or I remember when I used to write in the corner of my house, or whatever the hell it is you're doing. I think it's great to keep record of it, and it's great to have these things that you can go back on and look at.
Yeah. And then just in the like the present moment, it's huge for when you're feeling overwhelmed, because you're just like, so much shit to do, I'm never gonna get to it. But then you write it all out, and you're like, okay, maybe it's not as much as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then you cross one thing off, like, all right, then you got some momentum going. But that's essentially what I do. Like in the mornings not every morning I need to. In my opinion, I think I need to, because it does help me out a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll write out my tasks based on priority. Sometimes I'll do them based on which one I want to do the least, which is, you know, supposed to be the first one. But yeah, I mean, for relieving anxiety and that feeling where like, you know, you see the memes where like, I got so much shit to do, I'm gonna go take a nap.
Yeah.
You know, like it gets rid of that feeling.
I like that.
That's a good meme.
It is a good meme. But no, that's a practice that like a lot of, if you guys are listening to this show, just pick that up, because it like seeing all of that. I mean, personally, like I if I'm feeling a certain way about something, or I'm feeling something, I'll write down what that is, and I'll literally write out, okay, why are the reasons why I'm feeling like this, or what's causing me to do this, or what's causing me to feel this way. And that'll actually really help me to kind of just play through why certain things are going on. It's super helpful, and it's one of the easiest things that you could do. It's also cheap. All you need is a pen and a cheap notebook.
Yeah, it's been really really helpful to me. And then, you know, I think you can write down your thoughts, but you can also like listen to podcasts, or listen to there's a lot of stuff on YouTube. I forget half the stuff that I even listen to, but a lot of it's on markbell.com. If you guys want to check it out, there's Mark Bell University, and it talks about some of the different things on there that I listen to. But I take notes on it, you know, and I'm listening to shit from like Friedrich Nietzsche and stuff like that, you know, and it's like, it's just these people from the past have come up with these great philosophies and come up with these great concepts and ideas. Why not entertain them? Why not look at them? You know, sometimes when I hear something from somebody, I'm like, how come people don't still talk about this guy like all the time? Like, how come like it's not, you know, like, okay, I understand like the importance of George Washington, and I understand, but like, I don't remember them bringing up some of these people in school. I'm like, there's some great information here. Like these would be, and I guess I get it, because some of them are, their thoughts are pretty wild. Some of the things that they talk about can sometimes be, you know, kind of wild, but it's amazing. It's really empowering when you start to learn, when you hear somebody say that, you know, nothing is either good nor bad until you put a label on it. You're like, wait, then it just gets you to think, and you can think for yourself on that, whether you even believe that, because that doesn't have to be true. That doesn't have, you don't have to share that belief. I believe most of that for the most part. I mean, I did talk about a couple things that I think are bad, and it's easier just to label candy as being bad for your diet. It's easier just to say, I think steak is good. I think chicken is good. I think these sources of protein are good within, you know, but I think a lot of times in our mind, we have, you know, a side of the brain that is kicking over stuff that's bad, and it's like, this is bad and it goes over here, and this is good and it goes over here. But I think for most of us, maybe if you haven't practiced some of these things yet, what we would see is probably like your body's probably 70% overrun with some bad thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe all of us, I don't know, because it seems like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to talk myself out of stuff all day long.
Yep.
Yeah.
And and temptations and stuff, and it's like, yeah, like it drives you it drives you crazy.
If y'all didn't see the camera right there, you should be watching us on YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about if you saw that left hand.
Oh my God, Jessica Smith's peeking in on us.
What's up, Jess? Yo.
Made it all uncomfortable. Now we got
I
a
know, now
girl
we
in
have
here.
to be all straight faced.
How much Kratom did you take?
4 pills.
All of it. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, we're telling the truth.
Yeah. I only took 2 capsules.
Oh man. Damn it, Jess! You messed up our roll.
We were flowing.
We were flowing.
Yeah, we had
a good
flow. It was a heavy flow day for us.
It was. How about for yourself?
We're talking about, you know, being in the zone,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
Was she thinking something different?
I don't know if she was.
I hope she wasn't.
We talked about this.
Yes.
Testosterone and performance.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going on over here.
But speaking of, I mean, I promise I'm not trying to be mean, but we were talking about distractions, and like that's a good example, right? I mean, hey, like we're doing our absolute best to try to get over this right now.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about women now? Because they can be very distracting.
They can be.
See, that's what I'm
You're
talking
trying to
about.
get work done. You're trying to, you know, do what you got to do to be a successful man. And then a woman just comes in and ruins it all.
and then they leave.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna text tomorrow says Nsima's single.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember at the old gym, at the original super training, there was like
Oh yeah.
chicks on the other side, you know? And it was like, I had to snap my fingers at our guys all the time. Hey, let's go back and do some squats over here. And they're like, oh, yeah, I forgot. It's watching a girl do wall balls over there.
It's like, dude, you've been warming up for like 4 hours.
God.
Like, let's go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, hop right into it. Huh?
Oh, God.
I think a hard part about a lot of this stuff is you know, learning about whether these are like your own thoughts or if these are things that are from your past experiences, or whether you're being shifted around by your emotions. You know, because a lot of times you'll have an emotion. Like if somebody if somebody is to show you like a picture, they show you a picture of like a cheeseburger or something, you'll have a little bit of an emotion to it.
Yeah.
And if it's a recognizable cheeseburger, like one from like McDonald's or In-N-Out Burger, you know, you'll have a different reaction to that. Somebody shows you an axe, you'll have a reaction to that, and they show you an axe with blood on it, you'll have a reaction to that. And so those reactions are, I don't know if you can change those too much. Those are pretty tough, because I think that's got to be pretty deeply etched in your brain from the time you're like a little kid watching cartoons and whatever the hell else you saw and whatever video games you played and all those different things, they factor in there. But I do know that we have the ability to not say some of these thoughts out loud or not turn those thoughts into an action or to think about the thought to where you can start to turn it into something more positive, regardless of what you saw. It's just very difficult. It's a hard practice because the human body is like a freaking computer, and we take all these experiences that we've had in the past and we try to condense them down and say, okay, how does all this stuff from the last 44 years, how does this apply to right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I could say, you know what? I've been screwed by this type of person before. It's only going to happen again. But that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make any sense because this is a different person. This is these are different circumstances. So it can be really hard. And I think some of our best bet is to try to play through, as they talk about in Stoicism, is to try to play through a little bit of worst case scenario stuff. And then as you do that, you're also working on reframing stuff. This is stuff that I've worked on quite a bit for myself. I found it to be helpful. I also found that sometimes it's a little weird to like detach yourself from emotions. It's like you can go too far that way.
You can.
And then everybody around you thinks that you don't care about anything. And that's not good either, especially for your significant other. They're like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going on with you? Like, you happy? I'm like, yeah, I'm pumped.
What you were just saying there remind me, what was, see, this is like the day that I'm remembering things, but I'm not remembering the name of the guest who said it. Remember the guy who kept the Doritos next to him
Oh, yeah.
at all times?
Come on, I just literally.
It's not Sean. But anyway,
Evan
Carmichael.
Yeah. It's like he keeps the Doritos next to him all day, the closed bag of Doritos that typically you'd open and you'd kill the whole bag, just as a reminder that he could, he doesn't have to reach for them. He could control himself around them, right? So it's like one of those things where he's intrinsically building the habit of not having to always reach for the Doritos, whereas like you can consistently build these better habits into your day. You can consistently build these things so that you like fasting, you don't always have to reach for food when you feel that hunger come upon you, right? You just do these things over and over and over again to change yourself. So that's very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, it was funny when he was like, yeah, sometimes if like a employee or coworker comes in actually eating Doritos, that he'll like get it and like he'll smell the bag.
Yeah.
And Mark was like, whoa, like you probably shouldn't do that. You're going to trigger an insulin response. He's like, that can happen? I was like, yep, absolutely. He's like, oh, okay, I better stop.
Yeah.
It was just funny to me because his response was like, because he's like very like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm on this podcast, let's go. And then it's like, oh, wait, that actually can happen? Like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really positive. But that's another example. It's like, why not listen to other positive people? Why not explore what it's like to ditch a lot of negativity? I hear people, kind of say, get rid of the negative people around you, and that might be something that you want to explore. But I would say beyond that, just try to, because that's a little tougher, and these might just be friends that you've been buddies with for a long time, and there's probably not a lot of great reasons to boot them out just because they're a little negative. I don't just because they're cynical. I don't think it's there's any reason to be like, hey man, you got to hit the bricks. It's good to have friends, and if you can, go through this world and have one or two friends, when you die, then I think you've probably gone through a pretty decent life. It's not easy to have a really good close friend. It's important, and you don't want to, you don't want to just kick people out because you think that you're interpreting them to be negative. But instead of that, I would, try to ditch some things that you're viewing as being negative. And again, it can be until a time where you can reframe them and you can get better at it. It could be social media. It could be the news. It could be whatever's in your day. I know a lot of people, like, from a lifting perspective, who, and I guess, for me, deadlifting has always been pretty difficult. I wasn't a great deadlifter. I could figure it out enough to win some meets here and there and to put together some good totals. But I know, like, when it came to deadlifting, that's my stomach, I think.
I know.
Trying to get on the air.
Most definitely.
I would have a little bit of a defeated mindset on a deadlift day. Like, I wasn't as confident. I wasn't as excited, because my interpretation was that I struggled at getting better at the deadlift. And so therefore they have it, what I thought was true. Because I'm like made it so. I don't know. Like, I mean, I worked on correcting it. I got to a point where, I was able to do like 675-pound deadlift, which was my max for a little while, stuck pretty bad there. And I was able to eventually do that for a triple. And I was able to do a 766 deadlift. But in accordance to my strength in other areas and the progress I made in other areas, I just didn't make the same progress on this one lift. As I started to examine and look around the gym and see some other successful lifters that we've had, they were always people that didn't miss their lifts. They always made their lifts. And not only did they make their lifts, they usually lifted them really well. You know, oftentimes to the point where they did the lift very explosively and through the range of motion that you're supposed to do it through and very cleanly. And you're like, damn. And so over a period of time, I started to kind of learn that the reason why these athletes were so successful is because they had such a positive mindset about some of these lifts.
Yeah. When
Stan came in and lifted, Stan Efferding, when Stan came in and started lifting with us, Stan is actually a great example of it's neither positive nor negative, because he didn't really view any of it to be that way. He didn't really get real hyped up. He might make some noise. Well, he made a lot of noise during the lift, but he didn't really get all hyped beforehand. He didn't get hyped up afterwards, even though he broke all-time world records. A lot of it he knew was coming from the work that he put in. So there was really no reason to be overly hyped. There was no reason to be sad, mad, happy, or anywhere on that scale, because what he lifted that day was simply a byproduct of things that he has done previously. It wasn't about being tough. It wasn't about being macho. It wasn't about being a badass. It wasn't about the music that was on. It wasn't about any of that stuff. It just simply had to do with what he programmed himself to do over a period of time. When he went to do the lift, it didn't matter if he had pre-workout. It didn't matter. None of that stuff really mattered. What mattered is whether he taught himself how to do the lift the right way. And he would make these lifts and he'd make them pretty effortlessly. There wasn't a lot of friction. I think oftentimes in life we're trying stuff, like we're trying too hard. And there's really not a trying to it. It's, you have to back up a couple steps and you have to engage yourself and involve yourself in the doing of the thing. And that's why people are like, you got to be in the moment. You got to be present. You got to be in the moment.
That's love the process.
Yeah. But if you're in that, what they're referring to, if you're in that, that'll get you the result you're looking for. Oftentimes that'll get you the result you're looking for. And imagine doing your training that way all the time. Imagine going into the gym and just seeing like, oh, I got to squat 600 pounds for a triple today. And you go to your max set, just didn't feel right. You got 2. And instead of throwing a fit, or instead of being pissed, or instead of yelling at your coach, or instead of whatever it is that you might do, going home and shooting up a bunch of steroids or whatever the hell it is that you think is going to solve this problem for you, you think about it in a way that is going to be productive towards you getting the extra rep. You know, you can think, well, I was planning on getting 3 reps. Maybe I miscalculated. And maybe that's the strength that I'm at right now. I'm not quite as strong as I thought I was. I'm about a week or 2 behind. I'll see what I can do next week to kind of solve this. I'll research and talk to some people about, people that have been in this similar predicament as the meet gets closer, when they're kind of testing to see what their opening lift should be. And I'll troubleshoot. I'll try to see was there an error made? Did I overtrain? Did I undertrain? What's my body weight? You weigh yourself and double check and make sure you're not like 5 pounds lighter for whatever reason. There's a lot of things that you can do to come up with the right answer and to make sure that you get it done correctly. But being mad about it or being sad about it isn't really gonna necessarily help with production. Although oftentimes your emotions can help with a decision. So you could be pissed off enough to where you're like, fuck, man, that's unacceptable for me. I need to come back from that. But to be any madder than that, it's not going to really assist anything.
It reminds me like what you're talking about there, especially when you were talking about Stan. It's like, yeah, there's this idea of trusting the process or liking the process or, liking the training. But with anything that you want to do, let's say that we're talking about the gym, you have this goal of numbers that you want to hit, and there is a process to get there. There's a training plan. There's certain steps you actually need to take to be able to get to that specific goal. Whatever it is, you actually have to learn how to enjoy those moments, because that's where you're going to be most of the time. When you're trying to diet to lose weight, we always talk about like you have to kind of like the diet you're doing. Well, you have to like that daily process of eating that specific food. And even if you don't like how the food tastes, maybe you do like the process of making the right decision, because you know that every time you do make the right decision to eat the right food, you feel proud of yourself. Even if you don't necessarily enjoy the food the most at the moment, the fact that you're doing that right then and there, you're usually like, oh, wow, I'm happy that I'm doing this for myself. I'm happy that I'm making this decision. And you feel good about that. Well, you have to learn to like that day after day, month after month, because that's what's going to get you to that end goal. But if you're always trying to envision that end goal, it's like when you do make a misstep here or there, when you do miss a training session, right? Or your training session doesn't go the way it needs to go, you start to beat yourself up over it. And that's not going to help you out at all.
Yeah.
It's not going to be beneficial.
I was actually going to ask you, like, where does like visualizing come into play then? I remember you said when you work with clients that are in meat prep, that you'll actually have them like download like a certain app that shows like their kilos and the plates and all that, like to let them know like, hey, like I need you to visualize lifting, you know, that much weight. So where does that, or when does that come into play, or like is there room for that with this conversation?
I think there's room for that all the time. Like that. There's a reason why people always talk about visualizing where you want to be and all of that. I think that's always beneficial. But at the end of the day, no matter what it comes to, you always have to do that day after day work, that training that you're doing to get to that goal, right? So I mean, it's just like when I deadlift in here, right? Before lift, I usually just picture it going well. That's what I always do, especially if it's hard lift. I picture that specific lift going well, and then I go and I execute on it. But I think there's always room for that. If you can get yourself in the practice of doing it, I think it can make a big difference. I mean, there is we've been referencing him a lot this podcast, but in that Stephen Kotler episode, there was a book, I think it was The Rise of Superman, where he was, everyone's heard of this study where there were like three groups one group was actually shooting free throws, one group was visualizing shooting free throws, and one group wasn't shooting any free throws at all. The group that was actually practicing and doing the work, obviously they had the best results after that, but the group that was visualizing it, even they improved to an extent just by picturing it. And the group that didn't do anything at all, well, they didn't improve at all, right? So there is a benefit in not just visualizing the end goal, but visualizing the work and learning to fall in love with the work.
I think what you said about, feeling good about what you did, being proud of yourself is like just maybe not talked about enough. Like you're really pumped about what you did, and the reverse of that is horrible too, when you made a bad decision. And again, like maybe you should reframe why you're categorizing it as bad. For myself, I try when it comes to the food side of things, I have worked on really not trying to categorize it as being bad and trying to categorize it a little bit more as being part of the process. When I am in a mode where I'm really working on getting leaner and where I'm focused on that, I do view it as being bad. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay on this path because this is getting me the result that I want. And I already usually when I make that decision, I'm already kind of locked into it. And it doesn't feel like I'm being forced to, it doesn't feel like I'm forcing myself to. And so I'll do that and say, the ice cream that's in the freezer, because my kids are always eating some ice cream. I'm like, that's not part of the plan right now. It's not part of the diet. At other times where I'm allowing myself some room, I don't view it as like, all right, I'm going to like pig out or I'm going to cheat, or I'm not really viewing it as any of that. On the other side of that, I'm also okay with a little fluctuation, So these are all things that you can play through in your head as you're talking about visualizing. Well, if you're going to loosen up your diet, you got to know that your pants are going to fit a little bit tighter. Like things are just going to be a little different for a short period of time, but it's not forever. It's just for a moment. It's just for you. Maybe you want to just enjoy yourself on a vacation, or who knows what it is. Who knows what it's for? Maybe you're just tired of eating the same foods. You just got tired of eating chicken or whatever the case is. And I think the reinterpretation of a lot of diet tricks and things like that can really be really helpful for people.
Yeah, I like that. Pretty much everything from the diet to the training, it kind of sets you up to never be surprised. You know, like, oh shit, I didn't hit that 315 bench. It's like, well, dude, look at your training. You know, did you actually set yourself up for that? It's like, if you're honest with yourself, then you'll see. And then, yeah, you went off your diet for, 2 months. It's like, of course your belt size is going to go up a little bit. So I really dig that as somebody has been like an anxious person in the past, to be able to look at stuff like that and be like, there's no more surprises because I can already kind of see it happening, or I can see it coming, I should say.
And if you were to think about like what you would say to somebody who comes to you and they're like, Andrew, I hear you on this podcast all the time. You guys are always talking about fitness and stuff. I'm really frustrated with myself because I gained 20 pounds. You would say, okay, what are you currently doing about it? And then they would talk about their job, and they would talk about how this happened and that happened, and they just moved. And you'd say, okay, that's totally understandable. What are you doing about the 20 pounds that you gained,
Right.
And so I think, people, we like to kind of clutter stuff up with a lot of these other things because we know how easy it is to be distracted. So if you ask me a question like that, like, what are you doing about this? I can easily point out all the distractions that I have, and you can kind of empathize with it. You can say, oh yeah, I've been in those. I've been in your same shoes. I've done the same thing before. But a key factor to getting yourself out of that is just to think about, it's just to problem solve. What are a couple things that you can do? Maybe your situation is kind of screwed. Maybe things are going to be a little bit more difficult for you for a moment. But what can you currently do to change that situation? What are things that you can do to kind of get yourself out of it? And I think the one thing would be to work on reframing what's going on, because you moving and you maybe having a new job or taking on more hours, it really doesn't have anything to do with the control over the food that you put into your mouth, but it does because it has an impact on the stresses that you have each day. And then, so from there, you'd have to kind of unwind. Okay, you'd say, all right, dude, like, where are you fucking up? Well, I tend to eat a ton when I get home from work, And then you might be able to say, okay, well, do you have a microwave at work? How about when you leave work at 4:30, 5 o'clock, you have a meal right then, so that when you go home and you eat, you probably don't have an opportunity to eat till it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, and you're probably starving. If you had some chicken breast at 6 o'clock or at 4 o'clock before you left the building, you'd probably be good to go.
Yeah, and I think, so I know for me personally, like, why can't you do X, Y, and Z? I'll pile on a couple things to kind of like hide the real like obvious answer, which is like, oh, it's just because I'm not willing to like put food in the microwave as I leave because, whatever, I have my own reasons or whatever. But it is funny because, like, I'll say like, oh, it's, the baby, it's work, it's this, it's that, instead of just being like, I don't know, I'm just being a piece of shit right now.
So yourself and Carlos, right? Carlos had a baby a few months ago, and you just had your baby. And, there's not one time after Carlos had his baby, even on week 1, week 2, week 3, 4, and weeks after that, that I've seen him come in here and be, hey, Carlos, man, how you doing, man? How's the baby? Oh, she's great. She's beautiful. She's awesome. Right. And he never once mentioned like what I now know, like babies be keeping people up every 2 hours. Right. And he was coming into work. You're coming into work, and he was coming into work every day, just smile on the face, getting shit done. Not even, there wouldn't be, if I didn't know him, I wouldn't know that he just had a newborn baby. But there are some people that happens to, and I don't know, but I know from talking to some people that having a baby is difficult. But you will not get, and they will tell you about all the problems all the time, all the difficulties all the time. You won't be able to hear enough of it. Again, I have sympathy for that. I like, it's difficult. I get it. But you guys, both you and Carlos, have reframed all aspects of that, it seems. And it doesn't even look like anything in your life has changed.
It has, for sure.
Yep.
And Carlos is just like a perfect example of somebody that just will see the positive in damn near everything. Like it would be shocking if he just didn't have a smile on his face, right?
Yeah.
Like he's such a good positive person to be around. But in regards to like reframing the mindset and stuff, like, I mean, a couple months ago, if my dogs woke me up more than twice in a night, I would come in just like dragging, like, I can't believe like I'm going to get rid of these dogs, you know, like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then now it's, you know, every 2 hours. And like, I'm not like, I'm sleep. I could go to sleep right now, but like, I'm not completely hitting a wall the way I was before when, you know, before my son was here.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, like, I won't go too far off on a tangent, even though I will, but everyone talks about like, oh, you got to have purpose and, you know, move with purpose and find your purpose and then the rest will follow and stuff, which I agree. And now with my son, yes, he is a big part of that purpose, but now like literally everything has a purpose now. Like taking out the trash. Like, okay, if Stephanie has to throw something away and that trash can's full and now she has the baby in one hand and, you know, a diaper in another or something like that, like that's going to cause a chain reaction of things. Whereas now it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to take that trash out because that could happen. And like that little thing now has a purpose. Coming to do this podcast today, you know, already had a big purpose, but now it's like has another purpose because it's like, oh shit, what if our podcast reaches, you know, X amount more people and we grow and, you know, we get way more downloads or whatever it may be. But like literally like every little tiny thing now has a certain purpose. And it's such a cool feeling to get like this like little boost in like motivation for everything. It's really awesome.
It is awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool. It makes certain things kind of weird. I know that after I had Jake, like I went to get on a plane to go somewhere and I all of a sudden got super nervous and
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, the fuck is that about? I got like claustrophobic. I was like, I just was like scared to fly, which never happened to me before. But I'm like, how the fuck am I scared to fly? And then I don't know, I was okay, you know, it wasn't too bad. But then I don't know, a few weeks later, I talked to some friends that had some kids, and they're like, "Oh, that's because you're a dad." And I was like, "That's what the fuck that was." I was like, "Holy shit, man!" I was tripping because I don't mind flying; it's not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, I still get a little nervous here and there. You think about it a little bit. You're like, "Oh man, like what if this is it? You know, what if something happens?" You know?
No, I had that thought driving into work today, like because I wanted to be here for we had a meeting earlier, but I was running a little bit behind. Just I timed it wrong, so like I checked into the meeting like virtually, and I was like driving. It's like no big deal, whatever. And
That's
like,
reframing right there. I timed it wrong. You know, you reframe because you probably normally would say an excuse, but you just took it on yourself. I timed it wrong.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't really notice that.
That's a good way of doing it.
But yeah, like changing lanes and like listening into the meeting, and I'm just like, ooh, like damn, this is weird. Like I all of a sudden care. Like whereas before it was just like I should be okay. Like, yeah, I'll figure it out, right? Like I might be down for the count for a couple of weeks, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh shit, what if this and that? And yeah, like Stephanie had to go to the doctors, and I'm like, you ain't going by yourself. It's like, what do you mean? Like, dude, there's like baby snatchers everywhere. Like that shit terrifies me now.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Never thought about
and
that.
then okay, so Nsima had texted me short, like I think like the very next day or something. And my response, because he asked like, oh, so how's everything going with your son? Like how's everything, you know, with Stephanie? And my response was just like, I understand why people kill people now. I was like, man, because one of these nurses, like, she had to give him a K2 shot, or a K1, one of the Ks, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And he started crying, and I'm like, what the fuck you doing? Like, I was so upset, but yeah, it was just vitamins. It wasn't like a vaccination type thing.
Yeah.
Not that I'm anti-vax, it's just that sort of thing was weird.
Feel it.
I was just writing down some stuff this morning that I guess sort of goes with the flow of this show. So I'll just read this. This is kind of based, so I stole some of this from, and I didn't write down the guy's name. So I'm stealing some information from somebody. maybe I'll try to find the information before we hop off of here, but I put some of my own thought into it as well. But does anyone need to teach you how to think? How much thinking are you allowed to do? And the answer is no, not necessarily. People don't have to teach you how to think. You can think for yourself. But thinking about my thoughts is something someone could have taught me at 5 instead of me learning it at 35. I think I'm allowed to think infinitely, but I also think I don't understand how long that'll be. Learning how to think really means exercising some control over how and what I think. Choose what you pay attention to and choose what you think about. So kind of confusing, but
What was the sentence before the last sentence?
that
That one really caught me. What was that?
let's see. Learning how to think really means exercising some control over how and what I think.
Oh man, that I like that a lot because like that one, we were talking about this. You have so many random, just dumb thoughts during the day, right? Just like things that just come to you, and you're like, why the fuck am I thinking that? Why am I thinking that? Why am I thinking that? Why am I thinking that? And like, yeah, when you are trying to improve how you do certain things and learning how to think, you get better at kind of just like siphoning out negative thoughts.
Right.
Because there are some people who have negative thoughts throughout their whole day, like all day long. And for some individuals, that is literally called depression. But some people, maybe that's where they used to be. And it took a lot of practice and it took a lot of learning how to think, but they don't have nearly as many negative thoughts during the day, or they don't think negatively about things because they've just gotten so much better at like what you did there, Andrew, with the time thing, right? You reframe that. They got so much better at changing the way they think about things.
This is from David Foster.
Who's David Foster? Is he
A really like forward-thinking guy. I don't know much about him. I just stumbled upon him today.
Yeah.
Probably somebody I should have known about for a long time, apparently. But he has passed on a couple years ago. I don't know what the issue was. He was pretty young, but he has a lot of great thoughts. But the video I was watching is from a YouTube channel called After School, SKOOL.
Oh yeah, I like that.
I subscribe to that channel. But they also say in that video that I was watching, it says your mind is an excellent servant, but a terrible master.
Shit.
And, you know, being like, if your mind is an excellent servant, then you need to kind of think about that a little bit. Like, why not, you can work on strengthening the master side of it, right? You can work on that, but that's going to be like a lifelong project.
Uh-huh.
Why not stick to what your mind is already pretty good at, and that's being a servant. So being a servant would mean that you can take orders really well. You would probably most likely, like, I don't like a schedule, but most likely, just like myself, you will perform better with a schedule than you will without a schedule.
Yeah.
You need to have a schedule. I mean, I think it was about 2 years ago that I finally started having stuff like in a calendar, you know, and that's been helpful for all of us, and it's been helpful for the whole team and all that. But before that, I was always like, I might do this, I might do that tomorrow. You know, I was always like really carefree with a lot of that stuff. But what are the things that you could like service? What are the things that you could do every day?
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it be getting in some exercise, your nutrition, walking, whatever the hell it is.
Dude, do you have, let me ask you this. Do you feel a natural resistance when someone says you need to get something done by this time?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I have a natural like kickback. Like I hate this about myself. But when someone's like, you have to get this done by Thursday at 1:30, immediately my mind's like, fuck you. Like immediately. And then I'm like, wait, why did I do that? Oh yeah, cool, dude. I'll get that done for you.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just have this natural resistance.
Even if you know you need to, and even if you're like literally on your way to do whatever it is that task is, if somebody says to do it, there's like,
yeah.
what the fuck you mean I need to do?
I don't know why that is.
I'm very similar. Yeah. When just anybody asking me to do anything, I kind of get a little pissy. You know, like I've been working with a couple like new doctors, and they're like, okay, just go here and fill this thing out on the website. I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to do that. You know, and then it's like this survey or questionnaire that I got to fill out that goes on forever or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? Just feels like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, being micromanaged is terrible.
But we do respond really well to a schedule, to some sort of organization. And I would say that if you're going to, you know, master some of your thoughts, which I don't know if you'll ever have an opportunity to do that, but if you're going to at least master some of them, I think the first step would be to be organized and to have some sort of, you don't need to be meticulous about it. I don't think you need to be crazy about it.
Yeah.
But it helps. It can be helpful. I'm going to lift at this time. I'm going to work from these hours to these hours. I'm going to eat approximately around this time to this time. I mean, just knowing what times a day you're going to eat could really help clean up your diet tremendously. And it's something that no one ever really talks about. What if you're like, okay, I'm going to eat at 12, 4, and 8 every day. 12, 4, and 8, whatever the numbers are for you. I'm going to eat at 12, 4, and 8. Okay, that's 3 meals. And then when you start to think about that, 3 meals, I'm going to eat 12, 4, and 8. Let's just say that you want to follow a diet where you track your calories. Well, you're going to eat 3 times a day. Let's say that you need 1,800 calories in order for you to lose a little bit of weight. Then you can just say, okay, well, over those 3 meals, I'm going to eat the 1,800 calories. And now your diet doesn't seem so confusing and hard. What's the diet? I'm eating this amount of food every day. If you are hungry, you can utilize some stuff that we talk about on the show often, which is just eating a little bit more protein. So it might be possible for you to eat a little bit more if you wanted to get a little bit more from meat or whatever it is, or from protein sources.
Yeah.
But that's simple, right? That's that's a simple thing to follow, a simple thing to adhere to. You know, the way that you're going to be able to eat an elephant, they say, is 1 bite at a time. The way that you're going to be able to eat an entire pizza pie, right, is going to be not 1 slice at a time, but 1 bite at a time. It's going to take a while to be able to eat all that.
Yeah. What I was thinking for a second there. Where was it?
Eating a whole pizza in 1 bite, or
no? Because when he said the pizza, like my mind, I started thinking about the pizza and lost what I was about to say. Because, damn it, Mark, why do you have to bring pizza?
Here's an example of having poor control over your thoughts.
There we go.
Pink dildo. Boom, it's in your head.
There's more than a pink dildo in my head.
Oh, yeah.
But I was going to say no. No, what you were talking about in terms of like the scheduling thing, because like we always were like, you know, that thing that I want to do, okay, I'll just do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, the whole day goes by like, okay, I have a lot of time to do it tomorrow. And then that just goes on and on and on. But if you just like look at the most important things you really want to try and do, and you just set a time the next day to try and do it, just for the most important things, right? You're more than likely going to start being on the track to get it done. And then that just goes into the whole momentum bit that we were talking about. Once you set that up and you do that thing the next day, just like you say that you set your clothes out for the next day, right? That's already you preparing to have some momentum for your next day the night before.
Yep.
Like that can help really set you up and move you in the right direction for all of those things that you're trying to do.
Yeah, even when you're talking about tracking, you know, and you have your meals planned out. When I was tracking when I was very strict on it, I would not only write out what I was going to eat, or the times I was going to eat, but what I was going to eat and what each, you know, the macro breakdown of every single one. And it just made life so much easier. Got rid of any like doubt or any issues I would have with like, oh, am I going to make it tomorrow? Like every day was like, oh my gosh, like these calories are getting cut more and more. And it's like, oh, okay, am I going to do it? And yeah, just write it down, or, you know, everybody has a phone, so track it that way.
I think the word might is a good word to try to get rid of.
Yeah.
I might call that guy this week. Why not just say, I'm never going to call that guy this week? Or why even fucking bring it up at all? Like, you know, it's not going to happen.
I might go in early tomorrow to train.
Just, and maybe you
said
just
that too many times already.
Yeah, just chop it out, you know, and then it turns into, I am going in tomorrow to train. And even when you say it to somebody else, like I would, you know, I still mess up all the time. I'm trying to reframe a lot of words. I just said the word try. I'm working on getting that one out, but it's a difficult one to get rid of.
Yeah.
And I try to recorrect myself because I think our language is important, and I think that the things that you say are kind of felt by your body a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But with a word like might, I notice that when I say might, then I don't follow through with it. So it's like I'm like that's not great.
It's so powerful that I'm actually the night before I don't even want to say I'm going to the gym tomorrow morning, because then I have to do it. Because like it's like if I say it, it's gonna happen. So what will I say? Like I'm gonna try to get up early and go. And it's like knowing damn well that I just gave myself an excuse to not go tomorrow. Like that's how
Yeah. And I think that's a moment that you can reframe and you can feel proud of yourself. You can think about how you would feel afterwards. Like I know that if I go, I'll be proud of myself.
Yeah.
And I know that when I see Mark and Nsima, I can talk shit to them because I already lifted while they were sleeping. You know, that kind of thing. And you could kind of envision that side of it. And so that's like some motivation. You know, you can say, hey, look, that's gonna be great. I'm gonna already had worked out. I can leave early. I can get back home and see the baby, tackle the baby, beat up the baby. Well, you can't really do that yet. Yeah. It gets a little older. You can
toss it.
Yeah, man, I'm so like I don't know how bendy he can be and stuff. Like, so I'm still very like timid when it comes to anything with that little guy. Gained weight though, 7.1.
Damn.
Yeah. So the goal today was to get up to 6.8.
You get on the scale and do the double bicep pose.
Yeah. Yeah. While the opponent was just sitting there trying to take pictures and stuff.
Sick.
Yeah. So we're excited.
You should make a, you have the try hat. You should make a might hat, but make sure that like there's verb next to it so people know it's the might verb and just cross it out. Because might, like, might is good, but might verb is like, no.
Right.
English words.
Hey, I have a word for you guys today.
Here we go.
Negligible.
Wow. Tough.
You guys want to go for it?
Yeah, I think I got that one. Negligible.
Ah!
See?
Negligible.
Negligible.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. I'm like, negligible.
Okay, it wasn't as hard as I thought it'd be for you guys.
No, that's hard though.
There you go.
Massachusetts.
Oh, Massachusetts is easy.
Sorry, is it?
Massachusetts?
Massachusetts. Me, that shit's hard as
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. That one's easy.
Hey,
I'm gonna try to come up with a
Just do an
weird
entire
word.
show where we have like all this
It's a
weird
list.
Yeah.
And then I'll hit you guys with like the spelling.
Specifically is one that took me a while.
Specifically?
Yeah.
Hard.
Specifically.
Let me see.
Some of them are so dumb and they're spelled so
Specificity.
oddly.
Anemone.
Anemone, yeah, that's
Anemone.
good. From
Anemone. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you're saying
anemone?
it like Nemo.
Yeah, anemone.
I sometimes can't. I think that I don't properly hear what I'm supposed, like how it's supposed to sound or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't mimic it when I hear it from somebody else.
What do you got?
Anemone?
No, just certain words.
Worcestershire?
Worcestershire.
Fuck
I
that word.
hate Worcester. Is it Worcestershire?
Worcestershire.
I call it Worcestershire. Yeah,
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. I hate that word.
That's
like,
a weird one.
Why would we just?
How about steak sauce?
Yes.
Call it fucking steak sauce.
It's called steak sauce. But the first time I saw it, I'm like, the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's impossible.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. Yeah, that's not a good one.
Colonel. The Colonel.
Colonel. Yeah,
Colonel. Colonel.
Colonel.
Why is it spelled colonel?
Oh, I don't know.
that one's dumb.
But it's a colonel.
Well, so
Complicated.
red, read, lead, lead.
We're weird. English is weird, man.
And then even like door, moon,
Door?
door, like doorknob, door,
Yeah, what's wrong with door?
DOOR, and then moon, MOON, also two O's in the middle. One
Yeah.
makes a totally different sound.
Ooh, door.
Door, moon.
Moon. Does it really though?
Yeah.
Moon and door.
Ooh.
Oh, ooh. Ah.
That's amazing. Somebody just came to that, I think.
God damn.
Oh my
I hope.
gosh.
I mean, I don't know.
I like that everyone's noticing how high our education level, like proper education level, is.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's
Good
horrible.
stuff.
It's
I
not.
like it.
It's not good.
It's not.
No, it's great.
Good news is nobody's listening.
Oh man, I
The
spit on
race
myself.
to 0 followers. You spit on yourself.
Yeah. I don't think it got on the mic.
Oh
We're
man.
okay.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna hit you guys with some new words tomorrow. Some difficult ones at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, I'll send Settlegate a bunch of different things. Like I'll just find weird things like the lead and lead,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. Red read, like through, though, thought, like
Mm.
they're all like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
And then there's like there's a couple words that
Let me look at the
all have a
text.
bunch of the same letters, but they don't rhyme. I think it's like comb, tomb,
Yep.
bomb.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch like and you're like, what? How do they not sound the same? Like they have a bunch of the same letters, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't go together.
It's very odd.
I'm not gonna find it.
What about some words that you can spell them the same way as frontwards or backwards?
Race car.
Yeah, race car is a good one.
Race car is one of those. Oh.
Yeah, race car spells
Those
race
are
car
called,
backwards.
Palindromes.
Palindromes. That's
Yeah,
not easy to say.
Whatever.
It's not, but that's what it's called. It's a palindrome. Have you guys seen the movie Tenet?
Palindrome
You
sounds
just
like a
made that
finishing
shit up.
wrestling move.
It does.
Yeah, the
Do
palindrome.
palindrome. That is, yeah. That's
Coming
pretty
off the
dope.
top rope, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but have you seen Tenet? I feel like that's a movie you would have seen by now. Yeah,
absolutely.
I've
that was
not.
amazing.
That movie's great.
You haven't seen it? It's a movie I have to see a second time because, like, after I finish, I'm like, oh, there's a lot.
I don't know how
here.
many times I need to watch it to figure it out.
Yeah,
Probably a lot.
yeah. I think it was close to the level of Inception.
Hmm.
I watched Inception like 4 or 5 times.
I liked
Inception's
Inception a lot.
Really cool.
Okay, before we finish, what do you guys think happened at the end of Inception? Do you think that he was
That
stuck,
motherfucker's still dreaming.
still dreaming?
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking he was still dreaming too, which just is so fucking sad.
Yeah, I remember like there was like an article somewhere that said that there was actually another indicator that showed when he was dreaming and when he wasn't.
Mm.
It was like he like had a ring on or something, like something small that you
Oh.
couldn't catch unless you really were looking for it.
Christopher Nolan would do that.
Yeah, it's a good movie though.
It was great.
Good shit today, guys.
That was fun. I love these conversations.
Take us on out of here,
I
Andrew.
will. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Shout out to Element for sponsoring today's episode. Again, just to clarify, you guys responded so damn well to the free Element recharge pack. They're just like, hey, let's keep this party rolling. So
Mhm.
if you haven't taken advantage of that free recharge pack, please check the link down below. It's also at drinklmnt.com/powerproject. If you did take advantage of it and you want to step up, we highly recommend getting the value bundle because you get 3 boxes and then they'll send you one for free, basically. Again, drinklmnt.com/powerproject. Go there for the value bundle or the free recharge pack. You just pay for shipping. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Val's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where you at?
I gotta say though, real quick, the lemon habanero inside the monster was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it worked pretty good. Yeah,
Nuts.
mine did too. I put it in this raspberry Zevia tea.
Yeah.
Mm.
You put it in. Well, don't put it in a full monster because it could fizz over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, try it out, guys. And Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. And Nsima Inyang on Twitter. Mark.
At Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.